I've had many comments over the past week or so about when am I going to post something about Brian Wilson. I've actually been gone for the past 2 weeks on vacation with my family to Japan and Korea, and just got back, and now I'm going to make my video about Brian Wilson, who unfortunately passed away last week. I had a short that I put out with Hans Zimmer where I asked him, Hans, what is a perfect song? And he said, God only knows. Now, there have been many videos over the past week about God only knows. I was looking on YouTube, and I thought to myself, you know, there's some really interesting things about the track that I think that people don't notice that I've always noticed. I'm going to talk about them in here. I think you might find this very interesting. Before we get started, hit the subscribe button so I don't have to tell you to do that later. We're going to talk about this from a keyboard and guitar perspective. I'm going to play how you would play the song on the guitar, which is kind of different than on the piano, but I think it works really well on the guitar. So let's take it from the top. Okay, so the intro, it starts out with just this pattern that goes from an A major to E major and back to A major. But when the bass comes in, it's actually going, so it's going A major to E in first inversion with a G sharp in the bass, down to F sharp minor 7. If you take an A major chord and put F sharp in the bass, it becomes an F sharp minor 7. Now, let's actually talk about that little transition that leads back into the first verse, this. Now that's really weird. So it's going A major over E, so it's a second inversion major chord, second inversion B major chord, second inversion C major chord. It's got the fifth in the bass on all those. Quick plug, if you want to be able to figure out songs like this by ear and chart them out, you should definitely check out my Beato ear training course. You can go to rickbeato.com and find it there. Next, let's take it from the verse. Okay, that's the piano soloed. What the piano's doing on the guitar, if I were to play it, it's going from D major to F sharp diminished, but it's actually in inversion to F sharp minor. Now this is really pianistic. If I were to play this, I'm going to put the bass in so you can actually hear what it does with the full band. It goes like this.
I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you.
It has these really interesting inversions. You have this first inversion D major chord, B minor 6, and then F sharp minor to F sharp minor 7, and then B7 over A. All right, so it's got these beautiful inversions that are created because the bass is actually doing these. They're not necessarily in the piano part. The bass line has all these different inversions. So instead of playing a straight D major like this, it's kind of boring to hear it like that. So I'm going to put the inversions in. That's one of the beauties of the 60s and of the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson's writing, is that he has these beautiful progressions that he writes these amazingly angular melodies over. And I would consider this a real angular melody. Let's continue on.
I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it.
So this section we have E over B, C diminished 7, back to E over B, back to B flat minor 7 flat 5, Beautiful change. This is really jazz players' chord changes. This is stuff you'd hear in jazz all the time, especially in bossa novas. This is really... And then it goes to A major, gives it an uplift there after the half diminished chord.
I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd do without you.
And then it goes back to that turnaround, right? The piano just plays those the bass notes there, but it's really, once again, very weird part. The second verse is just a repeat of the first verse. Check it out.
If you should ever leave me, well, life will still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me, so what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd do without you.
The bridge part, I'm going to move to the piano because it's hard to play on the guitar. Check it out. Now what you have is a really weird bass line over this descending chord pattern. You hear this, you hear that melody that's in the orchestral part, but the chords over it are kind of strange. So you got A major, and then A major, this is over an E in the bass, and then F sharp minor, and then to G major, and then it does this really odd thing where it goes to F over C, to E minor over D, D minor over F, A major over G, and then to me, I hear the piano goes to D major over A, and then back to A over E. Listen to it again. There's definitely one odd note in there. Let me solo the piano. Check out the piano part. Listen. I hear da da at the very end. I hear that F sharp. But to me, the rest of the group is playing. Sounds like D minor to A major. I only hear that one part in the left speaker. It sounds like the French horn is playing an F sharp and the piano's playing an F sharp, and it's against an F natural, it sounds like. But because the bass line is so weird, you don't even notice it. The bass line, that is one strange bass line. Listen to it again with the whole band in. Check it out. The second half of the bridge, or you could call it a reprise of the verse, just in a different key, really up a fourth. It does the same chord sequence of the verse, but it kind of sounds like it's still part of the bridge. Check it out. We're starting, instead of the D over A, which is the first chord of the verse, we're starting with a G over D. So it's the second version G major chord. Listen. B minor. Now that is a E7 over D, or a third inversion E7 chord, right? But it's the same chord sequence that you had before. So we got G over D to E minor 6. If you want to play it up here, you can play it here. And then you go down to B minor, and then E over D, and then it goes to A over E, F diminished 7, A over E, to E E flat minor 7 flat 5. It's really beautiful modulation here. Let me play along with it again. Okay, here's a really weird thing. It actually cuts off one bar of the bridge phrase and begins the verse in the original key again. Okay, so you're here, do 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 do, which is really brilliant. So you do this descending chord sequence, which goes to this E flat minor 7 flat 5 to D major with an A in the bass, and you're really on that verse again, right? So it cuts off one bar. Let me play into it again. Check it out.
Knows what I'd be without you. If you should ever leave me, the life would still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you.
And the tag is over those same 3 chords there. I love this round. Listen to the vocals here. I'll solo them.
God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be. God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be. God only knows what I'd be without you.
This is so well sung and perfectly in tune. It's really amazing. If I just put the orchestra in with it, so without the bass and drums, listen.
God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be. God only knows what I'd be without you.
Beautiful. Love to know your thoughts. Brian Wilson was a genius songwriter, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. This song is absolutely a perfect song, like Hans Zimmer said. Love to know your thoughts. Hit subscribe, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.